welcome back to another episode of Deducation, the Teachers Talking Teachers Talking Terror podcast. We don't talk about pears on this show. That's our other show, Favorite Fruits with Mike and Courtney. No, welcome back to Deducation. We are here. I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
I got all flustered with that intro. And when you see a guest like you see here, you know that we're talking about a Scream movie. Like we said last week, we are covering Scream 5, and so Ella is back. Welcome, Ella.
Hi.
Ella's back, and she's not sitting next to me. She's in the comfort of her own bedroom. So yeah, we are now like 26 years after the first Scream movie. And if you haven't seen the first Scream and all you've seen is this Scream, you've kind of also seen the first Scream. We're not getting to the grade book yet, but we've all kind of talked behind the scenes here. I really enjoy what they did with this movie.
Yes.
I really enjoyed how self-aware they were with what they were doing with this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, they even have that long conversation about requels, and it's like, it's still continuing the franchise, but we're rebooting it. And I'm like, and you did.
Yeah.
And you did. And so I'm curious to see where they go with Scream 6, which I'm sure we'll watch next month at some point. But it's an interesting one. So, yeah, Ella, make sure you've got a grade ready when we get there. And don't hesitate to chime in, because I know you also enjoyed this movie. This is the first one we didn't get to watch together. It was a busy week last week. We couldn't find the time to sit down at the same time. So she watched this one independently.
So Ella, did it scare you at all? Like, not watching it with your dad or anything?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
Did it drive you nuts that you didn't have somebody to ask 85,000 questions to while watching it?
No.
No? Although we did call you down for dinner at a particular time that really drove you nuts. We'll get to that as we go along. So, and one thing that the Scream franchise does is they do tend to keep things. Again, they're so self-aware with what they're doing, but yet they still deliver with what they're trying, that this movie takes place 25 years after the first killing, and the movie came out 25 years after the first killing. So it's like,
yeah.
Neve Campbell, who plays Sydney, this is exactly what she should look like, because it is X amount of years. Dewey and Gale should look exactly as they do, because it takes place several years later. And this really was this movie technically is titled Scream. It's the...
Yeah, and I, like, when I went to watch it, I was like, Scream 5.
Right.
And then I typed out 5, and then I put a V, and I was like, what the heck? So then I had to Google it, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, the V for 5 is, like, under the A. So I was like,
lame.
Makes sense.
But this movie is titled Scream. It is and was always intended to be, like she talked about, like that quote-unquote requel, where we are rebooting the franchise. We're starting it over by calling it Scream. We're starting from scratch with new players, new characters, new actors, but self-aware enough to be like, we're not stupid. You know, this isn't a straight remake where everybody in the original is either too old or passed away or whatever. You know, we're not giving homage to something that came out X amount of years ago. We're like, no, this franchise still has legs. We're going to continue this on. I just thought it was really creative how they did it. Mm-hmm. We get your typical phone call from an anonymous caller. Well, literally it wasn't anonymous. It was... Yeah. You're getting a phone call. You got a teenage girl home alone. Do you want to play a game? You know, that kind of scary movie setup. And, and we meet Tara, which I think, did you think that Tara's played by, Ella, what's her name?
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega. Courtney, did you think she was going to get killed?
Right where yes, like when she got attacked, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, again, I really like Jenna, and I'm like, here she goes.
And, well,
like,
and it's one of those that when you look at this cast, at this time, of the young actors and actresses, she's the biggest name.
Yeah, she's still like a pretty hot name out there.
And much like Drew Barrymore was a hot name back in the mid 90s. It's one of those where if you have never seen a Scream movie before, you're kind of you're fearing for her. But if you have followed the franchise, you think she's going to die.
Yeah.
Because this is how these movies start. You take somebody, you throw them out there, you kill them off, and then the rest of the movie kind of centers around that as your catalyst. And she is attacked. You get your typical scary movie conversation that Ghostface likes to have on the phone. Only this one's a little bit more temporary. They're talking about somewhat more temporary horror films. How excited were you when she name dropped It Follows?
I know.
You're like, I've seen that movie.
I was like, hey.
And so, but she survives. One benefit that they have now that they didn't have then was like high-speed internet, cell phones, location trackers. Like in the first Scream, there wasn't any of that. It was, your landline telephone. Here she's texting and she's on a different device. Like she's taking care of business. And she lives. But she does get hospitalized. I mean, it's kind of surprising she lived, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a brutal attack. Jenna Ortega's a champ. And then we leave Woodsboro and we meet her sister, Sam Carpenter. After we talked about the Night of the Creeps episode, where I talked about how sometimes directors will pay homage to other directors by naming their characters after them. This is one of those, I think. Where the director of Halloween, John Carpenter. So it's the Carpenters, Tara and Sam Carpenter. It's like, okay. And then of course you get Wes, which we meet here soon. Wes calls Sam. Wes being Wes Craven. Which it really, because this is the first one he did not direct. He had passed. He had died.
Okay.
So Wes Craven is no longer with us, and so I thought it was really cool, giving a character the name of Wes, and then when they have that party for him later, and they're just really like, thank you, Wes, and it's like it was the movie throwing homage back to Wes Craven, which I thought was cool. So. Yeah, we meet Sam, and Sam is not involved in Tara's life.
Yeah, I feel like they're all just kind of like, they don't have that like sisterly love that most sisters
they're estranged
do.
for sure.
Yeah, and so Sam comes back with her boyfriend Richie, and where they meet Tara's group of friends, and like Richie has heard about this, like the Stab franchise, because Sam kind of talks about it, so he's catching up on everything.
Watching it on Netflix.
Yes.
And Sam bailed, but she was around long enough to like she knows all of Tara's friends. She babysat a lot of them, so it's like it's this weird dynamic where they're now like seniors in high school, and so it's like you're now almost a peer to them. Because as a babysitter, like she's not that much older than they are, but it is still this weird dynamic. I went to a wedding several years ago, and one of my babysitters growing up was there, and of course I'm an adult. I'm an adult now, and my wife was with me, and it was just odd because. Like the only stories we have to connect over were like when I was 8, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just bizarre because you want to have this like adult conversation with someone, but really all they know about you is when you were a preteen. And it's like, well, yeah,
Yes.
yes, I remember that day that I stole your bike and rode at full speed into my porch, thinking I used to play this game where I would ride my bike down the street and then I would come flying into my yard and slam on the brakes to see how close I could get to the front porch without running into it. Well, I did this
Oh,
on
and this
her
time
bike
you
once,
failed.
not realizing that 10 speeds don't have back brakes.
Yeah.
So I hit the front porch full bore on this bike through my lower regions into the handlebars, and yeah,
And you
I was
learned.
peeing blood for a while too. So
Yeah.
that was fun. But yeah, so they're estranged. She babysat them, so it's like she knows who they are, but they also know that she just bailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get Wes and Amber, the twins who the twins end up being Randy's niece and nephew. Then we get one of the twins'
Okay.
girlfriend. It's like that Liv character just didn't fit for me.
Yeah.
The girlfriend, like, I didn't see a point for her. Ella, what did you think of these characters when you first met them?
They reminded me of the ones from the first Scream, except there was like I don't even remember like any of their names except like one.
Of this group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only remember Amber.
Yeah, Amber, like she was giving off vibes like right away. That like I didn't care for her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say Liv was definitely like your Tatum character. Chad and Mindy were definitely like combined. They were Randy.
Yeah.
Wes didn't really fit the bill of any of the other characters. He was just, I mean, which is fine because I mean we weren't doing a remake.
Right.
Amber was almost like Billy and Stu combined. It was weird, especially when you're trying to like pair them up. Who would that be? But you're right. This basically we get just like Scream 1. We get the high school kids meeting up outside of the school, talking about Tara. Only the difference is they're all friends with Tara. This wasn't like Casey Becker where we're all there like, did you hear what happened to her? Like these are all like, this is her friend group. And she's still alive. We get this weird Vince guy that really serves no purpose in the movie at all.
No, it was literally just for him to be a jerk and
to be related to Stu.
Yeah.
Like that's dumb. Oh well. Like it's not a dumb movie, but it's just a dumb, like
right. It was just
you shoehorn this guy in there just like you said to get one more kill. And then you're like, "Oh, that was Stu's nephew." Well, what does that matter?
Like we could have just seen that on the news.
Like, and even then, if it was on the news, they weren't going to say nephew of Stu Macher.
Right.
You know, because that was 25 years ago. Yeah. Stu did go on a killing spree, but that would have been the only tie-in was Stu's. But again, it's not like he didn't matter at all.
No.
Ghostface kills him. We get this. I don't know. We get this back and forth. Sam and Tara have a falling out. Sam, we find actually, they try to play it up like a big reveal, and I don't know. It just was one of those that we find out that Sam's real father is Billy Loomis.
Yes, and like when she was having hallucinations, part of me was like, "Oh, is this a little like split personality type thing? Like, is she kind of crazy?" Because it was neat. Like she'd just be looking in the mirror, you know, and there's
Billy
just watching over her,
there's
and Billy's
Billy
talking to her.
There's Billy dressed the way he was the night he died.
Yeah.
Despite the fact she never saw him like that, so I don't know why she would see him.
Right.
She would see like her images of him would be teenage as the night he was murdered. Like, okay, whatever. Like, but yeah, it was supposed to be this big reveal, And I understand why it's there, but again, sometimes I think movies try too hard. Like everybody here, if you look at it, so far we've got Vince, who was Stu's nephew, is dead. We've got Randy's niece and nephew, who just happened to be hanging out with Tara, who just happens to be Billy Loomis's daughter. It's like everything just seems really tight knit. But again, they are trying to remake the first one while keeping the storyline. It's a tough task.
Very.
Sam, we find out Sam left because when she found out Billy was her dad, she blew up on her mom, and the guy who raised her, who she assumed was her dad, heard all of this, to where he got mad and left. So Sam left, and we go from a party of 4 to a party of 2.
Yeah.
Which mom left the country for a business trip and left her teenage daughter. I don't know. Ella, don't get any ideas, but I don't plan on leaving the country and leaving you home alone while you're in high school. That's not my plan. But apparently in Woodsboro, it's a common thing to do.
Yeah.
So far, though, it's been all new people. We haven't seen any connections to the past. Ella, who's the first person we meet from the Scream franchise that we know?
Was it the detective girl at the hospital?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Judy Hicks. I forgot about her. Yeah, we do meet Judy, who happens to be Wes's mom. We do meet her, whatever. Like, that was kind of a fun throw-in just to bring her back. She's now the sheriff. And then Sam and Richie go visit somebody. Who'd they go visit?
Dewey.
Ella? Yeah, and Dewey is living in a trailer.
Dewey's looking a little
rough.
Oh, my.
He and Gail are now divorced, even though he's still madly in love with her. Like, watches her morning show.
I was going to say, like...
It was sweet.
Kind of creepy.
No, I didn't find it creepy. I thought it was sweet.
You're like, it's sweet, and it's creepy.
How's it creepy? It's not like he's calling
because
her.
It's like... I know, but you're divorced. Like, don't be watching her TV shows. And I think it's creepy because he couldn't even admit it to her. Like, he slipped up and said something. She's like, how'd you know that? And he's like, Like, if you're not going to admit it, then don't do it.
You've never lied about something?
Not like that, no.
Well, you've not been... I get it. I think I would find it creepy, I guess, if I knew all the events in advance and then found out. But it's like... Yeah. He still loved her. And it's just their relationship didn't work. And he's down on his dumps, and watching her TV show makes him happy. It's not like he's calling into the hotline all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like he's creeping her on Facebook or Instagram. Like, she's on national television.
Yes, I know. I just think
and he's not, and he's just I get it, I do, but part of it's like,
it's bound to happen.
It's different if he's sitting there just watching like their wedding video on repeat.
Right.
That I would be like, get over it. But it's like, she's right there in front of you. And if that brings a smile to your face, so what? But he must have been aware that it was creepy because, like you said, he wouldn't admit it. So Sam and Richie show up. Like you said, Dewey, will you help us out? No. Like, no, you just need to get out of here, basically, is what he's telling her. Like, nope, been there, done that. I'm distancing myself from this. But he doesn't distance himself. Because he calls Sydney and he calls Gail. And he lets them know Ghostface is back. Actually, he texts Gail, which I thought was funny. Like, Ghostface is back. It's happening again. How are you? Or something like that.
Yeah.
He even realizes how stupid it was. He's like, oh.
Well, he let them into his trailer and he told them like 2 minutes, and then he was like telling them stuff like, I don't remember what he said, but he was like, the boyfriend is always the suspect.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's just basically laying it all out. Like, guys, we've been down this road. You should always be wary of the love interest. And he's like, you think Richie's like, you think I'm a suspect? Well, yeah. You are, and so am I. And but yeah, you're right. Like I forgot he did that here. I knew he did it again later at the Meeks' house, but you're right. He was like, here are the rules, guys. You gotta play by the rules, and nobody ever plays by the rules in these movies. Yeah. So Dewey does show up. Either he drives really fast, or Sam drives really slow.
Yeah.
Because he kicks them out. He kicks them out of the trailer, and then he sends Gail a text, and then he calls Sydney, and like has a conversation with Sydney, and next thing we know, like Sam and Richie are walking up the driveway, to Mindy and Chad's, and Dewey is like 10 feet behind them.
Yeah, and he's all like dressed and everything.
Yeah, he cleaned himself up.
Yeah.
Grabbed his badge, and it's like he had a shortcut. You probably didn't catch it because it is from Scream 3. But when Dewey calls Sydney and is talking to her and he mentions something about her husband, I looked it up just to make sure, but the name that he mentioned was the name of Patrick Dempsey's detective character from Scream 3. You follow me a little bit? You remember him? The one that was investigating. But yeah, so, and then at the end of the movie where remember she lived in that house by herself? Yeah. And then Dewey and Gail are over for like popcorn, and he's there too, and then the door is open and she leaves it open. They're married now.
Okay.
Like that's all it was just like mentioning his first name, but I looked it up. I'm like, hey, it's the same first name. So it's either coincidence that but it's like if you mentioned his name, then that's who he's married.
Yeah.
To. So I thought that was kind of a fun little Easter egg.
Yeah, that is.
And because she was pushing a stroller, they've got kids, which is ridiculous. She is a married woman with children. Like she's pushing her baby in a stroller. How do you have that conversation with your husband who has been through all this with you? You go in and be like, hey, honey, you watch the kids this weekend? Ghostface is back, so I got to head back to Woodsboro and take care of this.
Yeah.
How do you do this as a mother? I understand that her logic is like, this has got to end. We got to end it now. But no, you don't. Like, you have gone 20 years with no incidents.
Yeah.
None.
Like, just stay there.
Yeah. Nothing. Ghostface didn't call you. Apparently, whoever Ghostface is, like, it's too elaborate of a plan to get her back in there. But it just seemed like a ridiculous conversation at home. Honey, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember about 20 years ago when you got shot by that murderer that was trying to get me? Yeah. Well, he's back in my hometown, and I'm going to head back and, see how it goes. No! Moron. Ugh. We get a fun little expositional conversation at the Meekses, at Randy or Mindy and Chad's house about all the rules of a requel. It's a new generation, but we're going to tie to the old generation so that we don't leave anybody out, yada, yada, yada. Wes goes home to take a shower. How many times, ladies, did you think Ghostface was going to show up behind an open door at Wes's house?
Yes. Yes.
Wes opens the refrigerator door, closes it, nobody's there. He walks over to the cabinet to get a bowl, closes it.
I thought that a lot because they always put like the music there.
Yep. They'd rise the music up and set a stinger, and then he was never there. I found that scene enjoyable because I thought for sure, I'm like, I know Ella thinks he's going to get attacked every time he closes the door.
And he was home alone because his mom went and got sushi.
Yeah, she went to get sushi, and so even then...
She was probably on her way back by then, because didn't Ghostface call her when she was in the car?
Yeah. Yeah, yes. He's just bebopping around like he's totally oblivious to what's going on.
Yeah.
And she's getting, like, killed outside his front door.
Yeah, she shows up and we get like a full-on murder in broad daylight on the front steps. This wasn't even I'm gonna
Yeah.
kill you around back. This is if anybody drove by right now, they would witness your murder. And nobody did, apparently.
Thank
Nobody
goodness.
drove by nobody drove
For him.
by during the murder, and nobody drove by as your dead body laid on the front sidewalk while you went in the house to murder Wes.
Yeah.
Which happened. Almost thought Wes was going to get away. Almost.
I
Fun
know.
little psycho throw in here. You know, it's like, because obviously Ghostface was at the house because he knew Wes was in the shower. But it just seemed a little like, how'd you know? Like, you were outside. How did you know he was in the shower at that moment? But whatever. And then Wes gets a pretty gross, like, throat stab. Yeah, it was pretty gross, but whatever. So this is when Gail shows up. Because Gail and Sydney have just been told. Gail shows up to cover the story, which then Dewey kind of chastises her for that. Tara's still in the hospital. This is when Sam recognizes the police security that were outside of Tara's room were now on the murder scene.
Yeah.
She's a pretty deductive young lady, Sam Carpenter is.
Yeah.
Quickly, like, oh, that cop was outside my sister's door. Clearly, because they only work in 24-hour shifts. There's no way another cop could have been there. And my favorite and yours, apparently every single patient, doctor, nurse, house cleaning, everyone. Single employee from the hospital was out at the same time.
I would think there'd be more people since there's a lot of attacks and people would probably go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nope. Tara is the only person in this hospital. The only one. Like, in its day. Well, no. The murders happen during the day, and by the time Sam and Richie get to the hotel, by the time Sam and Richie get to the hospital, it's like 10 o'clock at night. I don't know where this hospital was, but from the murder scene, when Sam recognizes the cops aren't watching my sister, we better get going. We have 3 hours to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tara was a pretty tense scene. It reminded me a lot of, like, It Follows, where she is, of course, she's got, like, a broken leg. She got stabbed through the hand. Like, she's in rough shape anyway, but she's trying to escape her room before Ghostface gets there. She just feels that pressure.
I think she heard like a sound or something, and then the lights went off.
That's true. Yeah, the lights went off.
Yeah,
and then
she went and hid in the closet.
Yeah, and I think Tara realized, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm the only person in this entire building. So if I hear a noise, it must be someone else.
And it has to be.
It's got to be Ghostface. Like, there's no way a janitor dropped a mop. Had to have been Ghostface. And she's right, because she's Sam's sister, and they're both very deductive. So Tara and Richie kind of bumps into Tara, and they both get attacked by Ghostface. Dewey and Sam show up. Sam calls, talks to Ghostface, basically to waste some time so Dewey can... And they knew what floor they were on. Well, obviously she knew what floor Tara was on. But luckily they were right in the hallway because Dewey shot Ghostface like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Sam and Tara and Richie escape, and Dewey decides, you got to do a headshot. I got to go back. And then this is where we call Ella down for dinner.
I remember before this part, there was another person there because, like, another cop, because when she was, like, rolling down, he was dead there.
Right. That's right. There was another police officer there, but Ghostface killed him anyway.
That part was uncomfortable to watch because she was, like, rolling and then her hand was starting to bleed again, and that would hurt.
Yeah. Yes. I've never been stabbed, especially through the hand, but yeah, I could see where using that hand would be tough. She did a
Mm-hmm.
great job. I think Jenna Ortega is a fine
Yeah,
actress.
I
I
do
think she's
too.
got a lot of talent. I hope that she continues to be selective with her roles and doesn't like oversaturate to where everybody's kind of tired of her. But so far, so
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, there was a span in 2022 where I watched 3 straight horror movies, all from recent times, and she was in all 3 of them. Like it was like, and the first one I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
I think this one is what I watched first, and then I watched a horror film called X, and she was in that movie, and I was like, hey, that's that girl from Scream. And then I watched a movie called Studio 666. The Foo Fighters made a horror film, and she gets killed in the very beginning of that one, and that was like, and all this is
Okay.
over the span of like 4 days, and I'm like, is that the? So I look it up. I'm like, that's the girl. I just saw her in 2 other horror films. So I'm glad she's slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, and because those were all 2022
Yeah,
movies, so she was
she was
busy. I
busy.
mean, going up to
Yeah,
that.
the Studio 666 wasn't a. It was not a big role, but X and this were. So
Yeah,
kudos to her. If you're listening, Jenna Ortega, good job.
we
If you're
like you.
listening, I'm sure she is. Why wouldn't she?
Yeah.
If the Hollywood actors are on strike, she's got nothing better to do. I'm sure she's checking out this episode. Um, yeah, so Dewey goes back to check on Ghostface, gets a phone call, and what happens, Ella?
He like it. The phone call was from Gail, but he couldn't answer it because Ghostface was stabbing him.
Yeah,
Somehow
he was
Ghostface
just
had
about.
2 knives, and he put one like on both sides.
I don't know. It was pretty creative kill, but yeah, Dewey gets a call from Gail, like you said, just about to shoot Ghostface in the head. It was just enough to distract him. And that's the end of Dewey. Gets a nice, elaborate
That's like the
murder
third
scene.
time he's been stabbed in the back.
Yeah, well, this time it counted.
Yeah.
So no more Dewey Riley. He and Tatum, his sister, are now victims of Ghostface. He made it a long run, though.
He did.
You got the vibe too that David Arquette was like, "All right, guys, I'm good. Like, I'll be in it.
Yeah.
I'll take the paycheck for sure. Let's go ahead and kill me off. Like, I'm good with
In
it."
his house before he died, you saw like a picture of him and Gail, and then there was like something that said Tatum on it.
Oh yeah, like her ashes. I saw that in the trivia because a lot of people early on when the movie came out were upset because like they referenced every character in the movie except Tatum from the original, and then someone was like, "No,
Okay.
he's got her urn of ashes on his mantle in his trailer." So they did have it was a nice little throwback, but it wasn't much of one. So yeah, so Dewey's dead. Sydney's back in town now. It's like Sydney and Gail just kind of randomly pop back in.
Mm-hmm.
So Sydney shows up in the hospital because, of course, Gail's beside herself. She never really did get closure with Dewey. And this is where Sydney comes in. And I really like Sydney's character in this movie. She's just kind of a
Yes.
no nonsense,
Yeah.
she was just fun. I liked her character. You could tell she's like, I'm over it. Like this has been my life. I'm tired of it. I want to help you survive, but if you don't want to listen, that's on you. But even then, I'm
Yep.
not going to let you. So Sam finally decides I'm taking Tara and Richie and we're getting out of town. We're not even going to tell Mom, we're just bailing.
Yeah.
Sydney's like, help me kill the killer. No, we're out of here.
Yeah, because
And
they were at the hospital, and Gail was there again, and then she was there, and she was talking to Sam because Sam was saying sorry about Dewey, and then that's when Sydney just popped up.
Right, yeah, because Gail's
Yeah.
like really dismissive of Sam. So, thanks. And then Sydney walks in, and it's all like, "Hey, girlfriend, hug it out." Don't blame her.
So as the three are getting ready to leave, Gail and Sydney follow them,
Yeah, because
and
Sydney
Ella.
slapped a tracker on her car.
Yeah, Ella. Whose old house does Amber live
Hugh's.
in now? stews.
which was
Yeah,
kind of
so it's
fun.
just like
I
yeah.
guess I'm sure they probably bought that house for a pretty big discount.
Oh, great
Yeah,
deal.
had to have been because it's a murder house. Murders
Yeah.
happened here.
And the only reason they had to go to her house was because Tara had needed her inhaler, and she said they had a spare one at
Right, because Tara's also
Yes,
asthmatic.
Amber's.
You would have thought after getting stabbed in the lungs or something that she probably would have been able to breathe a little easier, but never mind. But you're right. They're headed to Amber's house, who realistically, I kind of forgot Amber was even in the movie. It had been forever since we've seen
Yeah,
Amber.
I know. And it didn't hurt my feelings at all. Like, I wasn't upset about it because she was just kind of like,
Yeah,
ugh.
you could tell she was like a super overprotective friend. Almost got the vibe that it's like she had feelings for Tara because
Yeah.
she was like, well, if I can't be with you, then I'll just like be your handler. You know, like Wes had a crush on
Yeah.
Tara. She's trying to keep Wes away. Like she just had this weird,
Very possessive type.
So yeah, they're throwing a party. Amber's throwing a party in Wes's memory.
which is all.
Chad's
That's also
girl.
how the first one ends. Is it ends with a party.
Yeah. So again, it's that whole reboot thing where we're back at this house. There's another big party, but they're aware of it because they're even commenting like, "Why would you throw a party when people are getting murdered?" Like things that we were saying at the first one, the characters are saying about themselves.
Yes. And like I liked the little basement scene here where they go down to get something from the fridge, and it's Amber and Mindy, and one of them's like, "Why are you coming down here by yourself? Like when there's a killer," and the other one's like, "Because I am the killer," and it's like, "No, you're not, because I'm the killer," and it was just like, wait, what?
It's just it's like such simple dialogue, but it really kind of twists your mind. Like what? Because
I was like, if you're the killer, like this is how you're revealing yourself as the killer.
Like we openly have conversations about who it was a movie of who's the killer. Now it's everybody's claiming to be the killer. It's like, oh, this is weird. What's the kid's name?
Chad and Mindy are both attacked here.
Because Chad's girlfriend was finally like, let's go upstairs. And Chad wisely is like, no.
I'm not going up there.
There's now.
A killer.
So she gets mad and storms off, and he goes after her. And like you said, gets attacked by Ghostface.
That part, I also didn't like that part because when he got stabbed in the leg, then he like ran on it, and then he almost passed out.
You probably could do that. I mean, in desperation, you probably could, and it probably would hurt just as much as he says it does. So,
especially with all the adrenaline in your body. But I hate those where it's like you've been stabbed and you're still using that body part. And this is where our first like reveal comes out. Yeah. Because Ella, who is the first Ghostface?
Amber.
That we find. Yeah.
Amber, yeah. And she pulls out a gun and just is like, shoots Liv in the head.
Yeah, because Liv, she went missing. Chad went looking for her. We saw the whole Chad thing, which then, of course, led us to believe, like, maybe it's Liv.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're all like, well, you were with them. Like, you have blood. Yeah. Like,
and she came
and Amber's just Chad. Like, boom.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Amber.
Nope, I'm the killer.
Her, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just pops her. And then, it's game on. Like, now, okay. I just love how quickly that is. Like, it's all mystery. You really don't have a clue. And then somebody does something and it just, everything just unravels and it suddenly makes sense.
And it unraveled nice here too, because it's like Richie and Sam go to the basement to hide out. And he's smart. He's watched them all. He's like, it's your sister, Tara. She was attacked, but she lived. And where's she at right now? And
she's the reason we came here.
Yeah. And Sam, thankfully, is like finally the good big sister and is like, no, it's not. And so she goes to look for her, discovering her trapped
Yeah,
in a closet.
she's tied up like Sydney's dad
Yeah.
was, like duct
Yeah.
taped, hiding in a
And
stashed in
then at that point, when she was like cutting her like the tape off her wrist, and she like stopped, and I thought she was just gonna leave her there.
Yeah, she did
I did
hesitate when she was
too.
like, maybe she is the killer, but
Yeah.
she let her out.
And around the same time, I don't remember her name. One of the like, she's Chad's sister.
Mindy.
I don't remember her name. She was watching the first stab, which was when Randy was like
Yes.
talking to the TV to say turn around, and then she was telling him to turn around, and then she turned around.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to. We're watching a movie where she's watching a movie that is a remake that is like telling
Yeah.
it's telling the story of a movie that we've already watched. That was I forgot about that. That was fun. Yeah, so Sydney and Gail show up. And it's like
Yeah, and Amber.
Yeah, they realize as they're watching the GPS
Yeah.
where they were headed, and then we're like, oh.
Here
Yeah.
we go again. Amber shoots Gail and injures her. And then we get our second reveal.
Yeah.
Which this one, I don't know. This one just didn't really sit
It was
right
a
with me. And because I'm like, so Ella, you wanna say who the second reveal is?
It was Richie.
Yeah, and this is like he's like calling Amber like baby and stuff, and like I'm doing this for, and it's like, first of all, dude, she's in high
Right.
school. Second, you live a long ways away.
Yeah.
So like, how are you? I don't know. There must be like something on Craigslist or something maybe.
She said that they like met online because they both like stabbed movies.
Yeah, they met
Oh,
they met
okay.
in like the like Stab's Reddit
Must
channel.
have missed. Okay, I missed that
Yeah.
part because I was like, "What the heck?" But still a stretch because it's like you
Yeah.
just so happen
The game plan here, once this is revealed that Richie's the other killer,
Yeah.
You really had to relax on your expectations.
Yes.
Because
and this is the only thing I didn't like about
because
the movie.
this seemed like, wait a minute here. I understand Richie may be smart enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not discounting the ability of a high school student. But this was some extremely intricate planning.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to plan it out like Amber did, but it's like you somehow got a guy in a whole nother California city to not only find Sam, but get a job with her. Like, this was a very long setup.
Yeah.
And then figure out playing all these chess pieces on how they're going to get Dewey, Gail, and Sydney all back. It's like there are so many pieces of this that it's a movie, so it made it work. But it just seemed like,
yes,
I don't know, this is way too many moving parts to work out.
And when Sydney like went in, Ghostface called her again, and she was like talking to him, and then she just said that she was bored, and then that's when Richie like popped out of the closet or something.
Yeah, because normally we're seeing Sydney in these phone calls, and Sydney just hangs up on Ghostface and goes, no, wait. Like, it still bothers me a little bit, and it always has in these movies, when we know Ghostface is like literally behind a closet door, and they're talking loud enough to be in a phone call, and nobody hears like the first person voice. They only, like, you would have heard them talking in the closet. You would have heard the voice, maybe muffled, but still, you would have heard somebody speaking in there. But oh well. We get a bunch of chasing going on. Basically, Amber and Richie have a plan. Whatever.
Yeah, they're like rebooting, like we had said earlier, they didn't like where Stab 8 ended. And so they are going to like bring back, just as I said, like we stated earlier, the original quote unquote cast and just make it kind of new and improved and better. So their plan is to frame Sam as the killer because why
Well,
not? I mean,
because they
she's
knew because they knew the
incapacitated.
tie-ins with Billy.
Yeah. And or she's the estranged sister and everything like that.
I mean,
Tara attacks. This is where Tara attacks Amber.
Right. Yeah, we get a bunch. There's like a lot of action here at the end.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you get Sam attacks Richie, Tara attacks Amber, and then we get Sydney and Gail fighting Amber in the kitchen. Now I understand crazy people can kind of be tough, but it's like you're telling me because Amber was not a big girl.
No.
And she is like holding her own against two adult women who have been through this multiple times. Like Sydney and Gail weren't fighting with fear. They were.
And Amber kept being like, she kept saying like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm being forced." And then she kept apologizing.
Like he made me.
Yeah. And of course, they saw right through it every time, which was funny.
Yeah. And I like where like Sydney looks at, or like Gail looks at Sydney like, are you believing this or whatever? And they're like, no. And they shoot him and she just falls into the stove and catches on
Another
fire.
one of the,
like,
Well, because like they like doused her in hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
You know, and then, which is flammable. And then she bumps which honestly, if it weren't post-COVID, I don't think the general viewing audience would have known the hand sanitizer was flammable. Right. Like that totally was a COVID throw-in. But yeah, she bumps the gas stove enough to turn the pot, like light a burner, and then falls into it and just burns herself, which I thought was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I am a huge fan of firewalks, where you get especially in horror films, you get a stuntman, you get him in fireproof gear, and then you light him on fire and just let a human walk around on fire.
It would be pretty sweet.
And so when Amber was doused and lit up, I was like, oh, firewalk. I love a firewalk.
Yeah.
Because I think it's probably pretty difficult. It's probably cheaper to just do it as opposed to CGI. But I was like, oh, there's a firewalk. So we still got a lot of fighting. I said they set her on fire. Richie and Sam are still going after each other. Richie's pretty much got Sam cornered. Yeah. And then she kind of silly, looks up in the mirror and sees another Billy hallucination.
He's like nodding at her.
Well, he's nodding at her because somehow the hallucination of Billy knew where the knife was. Yeah. And all this is in Sam's head, which means Sam knew where the knife was.
She just needed Billy.
She just needed another part of her brain to show her where. Whatever. Like, it's different if this was the ghost of Billy Loomis. At least you could be like, okay, it's a ghost, whatever. But no, this was in her head. Yeah. So she apparently knew where the knife was, grabs it, and goes all Billy on Richie.
And she does. Like, she definitely gets those genes.
she leaned into it, and she went. I mean, she didn't.
Slit his throat.
She probably didn't need to slit his throat, considering she stabbed him like 87 times.
And then she didn't need to shoot him, considering that she stabbed him and slit his throat.
Because Dewey told her, gotta get a headshot. So she learned. And then we're done, right, Ella? Like, everybody's happy and survives, right? There's no other. All the scares are done.
After Richie dies, I thought it was all done, and then you hear a scream, and then you see Amber running.
Yeah. Yeah. Who is like still like her skin's all melted,
crispy.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Like half of her face is gone.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. I don't know how she screamed.
Well, she didn't swallow that hand sanitizer, so it didn't burn her vocal cords. But yeah, so we get one last scare now because we know Richie's not going to come back because we just saw him killed. But you got to have one final scare, and then there's Amber who, like you said, announced her arrival, screaming before she even enters the room. And but yeah, Tara shoots her dead. And then this there's I really like this movie, but there's some things that are just too much. Shoots her dead, and then follows up with, "I still like the Babadook," which was a reference to her favorite scary movie that she mentioned in the first scene of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, why are you so level-headed right now, Tara, that you can like
I know.
throw out a little quip?
Like it's still a little kind of, that's kind of creepy, Tara.
You just murdered your best friend. Granted, deservedly so, self-defense. But
yes,
you just shot your best friend, and you didn't like start crying or breathe heavy. Instead, you followed up with a line. Oh well.
Yeah. And so Gail here gives her word that she's not going to give any kind of like celebrity or like notary to these killers, but instead she's going to just kind of like honor Dewey in a book. And and then you get it closing out in a news report.
Yeah, and we see that Tara's taken out on a stretcher. Both of Randy's niece and nephew, Mindy and Chad, they survived.
I thought Chad was dead, but
I thought he was too.
I forgot about him.
He got stabbed a lot too.
Yeah.
Sam thanks Sydney and Gail for their help. Like you said, Gail's going to write about Dewey, and Sam hops in the ambulance, and that's it. We kind of back out like we saw at the beginning of the very first one, where the murder happened at this home. We back out, and that's the end. So, yeah, Scream 5, Scream 2022, whatever you want to call it. But that's Scream. It was fun.
Yeah, this is definitely, it's funny that when you had texted me that the other night, like, oh, this Ella's top 2, like it's mine as well. And I think because like the first one is, and I think it is because they just are so comparable.
Well, I just read here that, and I didn't know this, that in the party scene where they had everybody there that was for Wes.
Oh, did you notice that the deputy was in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Drew Barrymore too.
I just noticed that Matthew Lillard, who did the voice of Stu, who was Stu, Drew Barrymore, Jamie Kennedy, who was Randy, Hayden Panettiere, who was Kirby from the last movie, Henry Winkler, who was the principal in the first movie, and then Deputy Haas. All of those actors provided voiceovers in the party scene. That was when they did that toast for Wes, because again, the entire Scream franchise was Wes Craven's creation. The first 4 of them he directed. So I thought that was pretty cool. I just read that here. I thought that was pretty cool. So, let's, you want to grade this thing? Let's do it. Ella, you are our special guest. Why don't you give us a grade first?
I think I gave the first one an A+. I'll probably give this one an A since they're very similar. And the first one will probably be my favorite out of all of them, but I really, really like this one too.
Oh, okay, good. How about you, Courtney?
I'm going to give this one an A just because, like, the one thing, it was just too much of a stretch for me. And I get, like, you have to lower your standards a little bit, but just so cheesy, kind of. But this is definitely my second favorite one in the franchise. I really like this one.
I like it. I'm going to go A- for the same reasons. Like, I really like how they balanced rebooting it, remaking it, but also keeping that took some writing skill. So kudos to James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, the writers of the movie, because that took some maneuvering. But that wasn't any of the issues I had. My issues were, like you said, the stretch, the Amber Ritchie being the killers, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Even them meeting on the internet, fine, whatever. But then just really this like master plan of how we are going to get all of this to work. Like, it would have been one thing, like, we're going to kill Tara and her friends. Okay, that was doable. You could have got that done. But to somehow reach out to Modesto, California and bring Sam all the way back in, And then
Yeah, it
and then to
just.
reach out to New York to bring Gale all the way back in. It's like it
Mm-hmm.
just seemed like these two are the smartest people in film history, and
Yeah.
everybody else fell for it until they didn't. So, but hey, mine, it still was enjoyable. It definitely was a step up from Scream 4,
Yeah.
and as well as Scream 2 and 3. They were good, but this one's solid. I really liked it.
Yeah.
All right, what lesson you got, Ella?
I don't know. Don't trust people like in that situation.
Don't trust people if people in your town are getting murdered. Don't trust people.
Well, because I didn't know like who it was, so
Right.
like they said a few times like just don't trust anybody.
Okay. Well, and they did. Like that's or at least make sure they've earned your trust beforehand. Go with your gut kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you got, Courtney?
I'm gonna go with like we had said, like Sydney was moved on, started a new life, had kids, and then she brought her past issues like back into the
Yeah.
current. If you have moved on from something, don't continue to bring it back
Right.
up. Like either shove it under the rug and fully move on. Don't I don't know, just don't. There was no reason for her to have to bring that into her family life.
It definitely felt like the only reason Sydney was in this movie was because Sydney's in Scream movies.
Right. Yeah, like they're just, I don't know, just leave your past in the past, especially if it's got baggage like that, and move along.
Fair enough. My lesson here is I'm going to go a little bit more out there, I guess. A little sillier, I suppose. If you live in a town that has a history of serial murders, specifically Ghostface and the whatnot, don't be friends with people that were also wrapped up in said murder scheme.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it was 25 years, but everybody in town knows Amber lives in Stu's house, including her friends. So it really, really was odd to me that, like, Chad and Mindy would be okay going to a party in a house that their uncle was nearly murdered in. And they're fine with it. Like, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to watch the movie that shows my uncle almost being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if there's a red flag, don't try to downplay it.
Don't go chasing red flags.
Yeah. Amber lives in Stu's house. Don't hang out with Amber.
Mm-hmm.
Enough said. I know it seems kind of superficial, but she seemed really excited to be living in the house of a serial killer.
Yeah.
So you just don't hang out with her. And she's super controlling on top of it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is a wrap for Scream 5. Ella, we only have one more of these.
Unless if they make more, which they probably will.
They may. Why not? They make money. Yeah, so Scream 5 is a wrap. I don't see anything. As of March of this year, the directors were hopeful for a 7th film in the series, and they'd like to continue to see more movies, whether they're involved or not. So, there you go. But I will say this, we will watch Scream 6 at some point. I do know, and I'm curious about where this goes, I know for a fact that Neve Campbell is not in Scream 6.
Wow.
I guess the studio lowballed her an offer, and she and they thinking that she would take it, and she refused, and they wouldn't negotiate. The movie studio's stance was, you're not the main character anymore.
Yeah.
And her response was, how do you make a Scream movie without Sidney Prescott?
Yeah. Like, I am Scream.
So they made one.
Yeah.
Scream 6. I don't know what it looks like. I've not seen it. So that'll be fun. We'll catch that in October for sure. Because we figure it's September now. We got one more. And why wouldn't we watch a Scream movie on the month of Halloween? So we'll definitely watch that one. Social media-wise, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for updates, blah, blah, blah. Spread the word. We're closing in on a year, Courtney.
Yeah.
Yep. Almost 1 year ago we did this show. We started this show. Ella, you were just a tiny little girl. No, you were just about a year younger than you are now. But no, that is it for this show. Scream 5 is in the books. Episode 5 with Ella is in the books. You survived it, kiddo. You made it up in your room.
Yeah.
I know. I think you spent the last 2 or 3 of them sitting right next to me, but you're there now. So yeah, catch us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube if you're watching, any podcast host if you're listening. And we got stuff planned. We'll talk about it probably more next week about what we've finalized as a plan for October. That'll be fun as we hash out a little bit more of the details. But that's it for this week of Deducation. I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
Your part, Ella.
And I'm Ella.
And we'll see you guys next week.